Hello. Okay, guys, we are live. So, hello everyone, I am Harshad Jain, and today we are going to continue with our blog application. So, in the last video, we have covered some front end and the back end part, but today we'll be finishing the complete back end, that is the authentication part, as well as create blog part, as well as the search part. Okay, we'll be covering all these three. So, let's begin. So, first of all, let me tell you where is the exact source code. If you want to get the source code, you can simply visit my GitHub profile. You just have to type github.com/VIRAJJ014, and you can also follow me here. And what you have to do is you can simply go to repositories. Here you would find blog 3x backend code, as well as this is the front end code. Okay, so you can also mark it as a star, so it would be available in your star section. Okay, and what you have to do is suppose if you want to check the backend code, you can check out the backend code. And now in the last video we have just coded some part. Now we'll be completing it very fast. Okay, राम राम जी सारे आने, आज है हमारा मर्न ब्लॉग ऐप का चौथा दिन. Yes, exactly. Very good start. Okay. Right. So let me just go really fast. Okay, I'm gonna go very fast today because since we have limited amount of time, I think today is what? Today is actually Thursday, right? So we have Friday and Saturday to complete this project. Okay, so today we'll finish the complete backend and then we'll focus on the front end part totally. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'll just open the project, and if you have any queries, you can mention that on the live chat, right? So I'll just open the backend part as it is, and today I'm going to complete the authentication, that is with the email verification and the auth token as well as the refresh token. Okay, so if you're not familiar with these concepts, please watch the concepts because I'm not going to tell every concept, but yeah, you'll know. If you know Node.js and if you have worked with authentication, definitely you'll know the concepts, and if you have worked with middleware, then you would know what I'm trying to do today. Okay, so hi Vinay, how are you? Okay, so let's start with, first of all, you can see right now there was some issue. If wherever you are using this schema, you can see, for example, here I'm using the user schema, and you can see right now it's yellow. Okay, that simply means that there is some issue. Okay, always you would see your schema as green colored. Okay, if you're using VS Code, you have some options here. Okay, so first of all we have to fix that, so I'll be doing that now. I'm getting error while pushing code to the GitHub. Actually, you might have not authenticated your GitHub account with your normal computer. That's why you might have got some issues. Okay, so first of all, you can check how to connect Git with GitHub using SSH keys. You'll know how the process occurs. First of all, you have to connect that. Then you would be able to upload from your local computer to your GitHub repository. Okay, first of all, you have to connect, give authentication access, right? So that's a separate procedure. I can't connect that, I can't complete that on this video. Okay, so that's for Git and GitHub part. It's not related to merge type. Okay, but yeah, I gave you a hint. You can check out the complete setup part of Git GitHub. You would find that on Google definitely, or you can search on YouTube. You would find tutorials also. Okay, so guys, here you can see we had user schema. We actually had some problems here, and there was actually one issue. First of all, here you can see we had name, email and password. These three fields are totally fine, and in email I had to pass one more thing, that is unique as true. Okay, so email would always be unique. Then you have an empty array for blocks. Okay, this is fine. And one more thing, right now I'll just pass one more parameter here. I'll just give a comma and then timestamps as true. Okay, so timestamps as true simply means it would save the timestamps whenever there are changes or whenever the user is created. The timestamps would also be there in the user object, because this is very important, very important. Okay, now after this, in user schema dot pre, and here you can see the problem is we actually wanted to create a middleware. Okay, this is actually not a middleware, so instead of this reqres, you have to simply pass next. Okay, you have to pass next, and what you have to call, once everything is fine, you just have to say next. Okay, so first of all I'm converting the password, and then I'm calling the next thing, that is save to database. Okay, just before saving I'm converting the password, hashing the password, and then I'm saving it. Okay, this is a middleware which is called when we are trying to save anything to database. Okay, so here you can see it's done. Now one more thing is you just have to export it like this. Okay, You just have to export it like this. But I'm simply creating a variable name user. Whenever I call this variable name, I would be able to access the model. Okay, that is the schema, right? That's it for the user part. And now what you would see is here you can see automatically user would become green. Okay, now everything is fine. That means, okay, so this is the part for a basic user schema. Now we would be completely working on the authentication part. And if you feel I'm really fast today, so sorry for that. You can rewatch the video again and again, because yeah, definitely we have less time. Okay, but if you have any doubts, you can ask me on the live chat. Sir, how to deploy MERN app for free? If you want to deploy the backend, you can deploy it on AWS for 1 year, it's free, or you can use cyclic.sh. It's totally free, but it has some limitations. So you can check out these both. And for the front end part, you can use Varcel. Okay, that means if you want to host React.js application or Next.js application, you can use Varcel for hosting it for free. Okay, this is the free method, right? And MongoDB is totally free for beginners. Like if you have less data, you would be using MongoDB free version, right? So that's how you can host things for free. Okay, so now what you have to do is in the auth part, first of all, I'm gonna add a few more things here. So first of all, I'll just say right now, I'll just remove everything. Okay, I'll just remove everything. And this was a very basic test API which we created yesterday, and it was working. And I have to import a few things. So what I'm gonna say is, I'll make all the imports which I am going to use. Okay, so we are going to use JSON Web Token, Bcrypt, and NodeMailer. NodeMailer is for sending email for verification. We would be using NodeMailer for that. Okay, and then we are going to create two middlewares. Okay, so I'll just comment these out because they are not available right now. We haven't created these two. And then after that, we created the user schema, so it's available, and then everything is like that. Okay, now we have to install these. So what I'll do is I'll just go by installing. So first of all, let me just start this. Okay, I'll see the errors. So for that, just have to type nodemon and it would start. And now you can see I'm getting some errors. So let's try to fix those errors. And first of all, you are getting JSON Web Token. Okay, so you have to type npm I JSON Web Token. I think you would have to also install node mailer, and also I think bcrypt is already installed, so you don't need to install bcrypt, right? So you needed to install jwt, and I think now everything is fine. You can see everything is fine, right? So that's the method, and these are all the modules which we are going to use. Okay, so now we have imported those. Now what we are going to do is we are going to write our APIs. Okay, we are going to write our APIs. So first of all, we'll do this really quick. What you have to do is you can simply go to your browser. Okay, and what you have to do is you can simply type Gmail or anything. Okay, you just have to go to your Google account. Okay, suppose this is my Google account, and I have to simply click on manage your Google account, and here I have to generate an app password so that I can simply use this email for sending OTP to other people. For example, I am a user xyz@gmail.com. Okay, I want to verify my email. Okay, so viraj014, that is my admin email, would be sending an OTP to this user. Okay, for sending OTP, you have to first of all verify one user. Okay, this is the main admin. Okay, you don't have to create this for every user. This is the main admin who would send OTP to everyone for verification, right? So I'm gonna choose this email, and here you just have to type app password. Why are we creating middleware in user schema instead of where API is called? Okay, we are going to use middleware because first of all, middleware is used whenever you want to check something. Okay, so we're going to use middleware for first of all checking that the token is expired or not. To refresh the token, we are going to use middleware. Okay, and the second purpose of the middleware would be error. Okay, error handling. So we'll do that. So first of all, let me just generate a password here, and this password would be different from your Google account's password. Okay, you can see I have to generate some specific password. So let me just create this by typing blog 3x live. Suppose I'm just creating this variable name. You can give any name. Okay, you can just click on generate. Now you would get some password. Okay, this password, you just have to copy this and you have to save it somewhere, anywhere. Okay, and you don't have to share this to anyone. I'm just showing you because it's a live session, but you shouldn't share this to anyone. Okay, this is very risky, right? So you can copy this, and I'll just copy this. Okay, I'll just copy this, and now it's done. Okay, you can't see that later on, so please copy this, right? So now what you have to do is I'll just save it somewhere. Okay, I'll just save this somewhere. For example, I'm gonna write it here only, but yeah, you don't have to show this to anyone. You can also save it to your env file, right? So now what you have to do is you just have to create a transporter. Okay, so for that, transporter is that thing which is the main admin who would send emails to everyone. Okay, so you just have to type nodemailer.create transport. Inside this, you just have to write your email, main admin email, and the password. Okay, so password is actually this one, so I'm gonna change it with this. Okay, so these are the details which I'm gonna add. Now what you have to do is, just after this, later on I'll just change the password so that nobody can see that, but yeah, you have to add it like this. Now what would happen, suppose I am registering with a user xyz@gmail.com. So what would happen when I click on send OTP? So this admin Viraj J014, this can be any company email also, would be sending an OTP to this user xyz@gmail.com. Okay, now I hope you got this. We'll test this also. Just wait. Right. So after this, we're gonna perform the register API. Okay, so I'll just create a very fast register API. So first of all, what you have to do is you have to simply create a error middleware. Okay, so I'm gonna create a folder. Actually, here I'm gonna create a folder, and let's name it as middlewares. Okay, middlewares. So this is very important. Some people might not know how to use middlewares. This video is for you all. Okay, so what you have to do is, in the middleware part, you have to simply create an JS file. So I'll just create a file for handling errors. So error middleware. Okay, I think the name is fine. Okay, error middleware. Right, .js. Okay, so you just have to create a file like this, and what you have to do is you have to simply create a function. Okay, I'm going to create a function and export it. This function would be simply getting any error we get. Okay, and as a response every time. Okay, so it's for saving some lines. That's why I'm creating middleware. Okay, so now what you have to do is, guys, just a minute. Right. So now what we are going to do is we're going to use this middleware. Okay, so let's go to author.js, and here we have to just import it. So I'm just importing it from here, and I think there is no issue here. You can see everything is fine. Okay, so we have imported this middleware. Now we're going to use this middleware everywhere where we want to show some kind of error, some internal server error. For that case, we are going to use that middleware. Right, so let's do that. So I'll again go to the register API. I'll create the register API, and inside register, first of all, one thing which is very important, if you are creating any error middleware, that means error is always called at the last, right? So all the middleware which you want to call at the last, not before. Okay, some middleware must be called before, like verification of token and things like that, but error is called at the last, right? So for that, what you have to do is, at the end, this must be at the last. Okay, at the last of all APIs you are going to define in this page. So router dot use, and it would be error handler. That's it. Okay, that's it. So now you have defined this. Now wherever you get an error, it would be redirecting to this page. Okay, for your convenience, I'm gonna just print this statement here. Okay, so error middleware called, you're just gonna print it so that you can see that this file is called whenever we receive some internal server error. Okay, so let's see, and let's go back here, and here I'm gonna create an API similar to this, and I'll just name it as register. Okay, and here I'm gonna say that it's of type post method, and here I'll just type everything. Okay, so suppose in register, if any error occurs, I want to call a middleware. So if you want to call a middleware, here you have to type next. Next would be simply whenever there is an error, next would be called. Next is what? Next is actually the middleware. Okay, middleware. So this is the middleware, it would be called. Okay, so if there is any error, I'm simply calling next, that means it would be called. Okay, so now let's talk about this. So what we have done in previous video, we have actually written some amount of code inside this. So what we are going to do is we are going to just create some try catch block. Okay, some try catch block, and catch, it would be like err, and then you're gonna return the error. Okay, so what's the error? So I'm just gonna say the error would be sent to next. Okay, whatever is the error, so automatically what would happen, this error would be sent to where? It would be sent to error middleware. Okay, error middleware, and you would get that specific error message, right? So now I hope you got this, how we are going to use this middleware. Now if everything is fine, that means we are inside try block. Okay, so first of all, we are going to take the email name and password from the body. Okay, then we are gonna check that if that user exists with this email or not inside our database. We are simply finding this. If that user already exists, then we are gonna simply send we're simply gonna send an error, email already exists. Okay, instead of this you can also use throw new error, and you can create new error and send to this next also. Okay, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna simply say that if everything is fine, that means there is no existing user, so you're gonna create of an object of new user. It would be of type this schema, and it would be having these three fields initially, and there would be no blocks. So initially the blog array is empty, blog array is empty, right? So now let's go back here, and now here I'm just gonna save it. So for saving, you're gonna use await. Await is simply used when you want to wait for a while. First it will get saved. After that you're just gonna send a response message, user registered successfully, right? So now let's try this API by simply going to Postman. And don't worry guys, you'll get the complete source code. Don't try to code with me, just try to understand everything, okay? Because I know that I'm speaking really fast, and obviously it's not easy to write the code at the same time. Okay, so guys, here you can see I have actually created a register API, and for saving time I have just created those APIs, and you can just do the same so that you don't have to write APIs again and again. So I've created some APIs, but let's talk about the register API. Okay, so we have worked on the last video on the same API. Like, you can check the last video also, you would get some hint how to actually use Postman. Okay, so guys, here you can see what we have done. First of all, this is the API, right? This is the register API method post, and this is the register API. Content type is application JSON because we are taking data from the body. Now from the body we have simply given name is Harshal Jain, and you can also give some email. And currently I just tested this API. What I did was I added some people on my database. So I already added this email to my database. This user is already registered in my database. So let's try to hit this. So first of all, you would get an error because this user is already available in my database. I did this a day before. So what you're gonna do is, let's try some other email. Okay, so I'll just type hj123, and the password is any password, and the name is this. Okay, so I'll just change the name as Viraj. Okay, now everything is fine. So if I click on send, so you would see user dot is modified. Okay, actually we are getting some error. The problem here is you're gonna go to user schema, and here we actually have some problem. Okay, let me just check. Okay, actually it's like this. Okay, I just made a normal function and then everything is fine. Okay, so now let's see how it works, and I hope connected to database. Okay, you must see this message first of all. Now let me just try to add this. So you can see user registered successfully. That means this user is actually added to my database. Let's check the database also, and I'll just go to MongoDB. Until then we would continue. Okay, let's wait for MongoDB. We'll just see if the user registered there or not. Okay, so what we did was we actually created a sample database in a previous video, and that's what you would get here. First of all, it would take some time to load. Okay, so definitely sometimes you are not able to log in, so you can wait patiently. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we'll just wait for a while. Let's refresh. Okay, it actually definitely takes some time to get this button. Okay, so you can wait, and this was the ID. From this we created the database, right? So it will open up, and now you would see blog 3x, blog MERN 3x. Okay, inside this you can see this was our database. I'll just go to database, and then here you would get the data. So browse collections, and here you would get the complete data. Okay, so I actually added one user, that is Viraj014, but currently I added new user, right? So this user is actually registered successfully. So now let's try to do one thing. If I try to re-register, you can see email already exists. That means the register API is working fine, right? So I hope now everything is fine. So you can do the same things, right? So now what we're gonna do is we are gonna continue with the login part. Okay, so let's jump to the login part, and this was the register part. Okay, so I'll just close this. Now let's talk about the login part. So login part is actually similar to the register part. It's just that we are gonna first of all, okay, so they are actually similar. First of all, we're just gonna create a login API, and let's close this. Okay, let's close this. Now inside this we're gonna take again the try catch block. Okay, so I'll just write as a try catch block. So catch err, and if there is an error, so I'll just send it to next. Okay, so now in try, whenever you are logging in, you are going to take email and password from the body. Okay, you're going to take email and password from the body, then you're going to check does that email exist in my database or not. If it doesn't exist, that means user is not registered, so why would I allow that user to log in? Okay, so first of all, you're going to check that does that user exist with that email. Okay, so if user exists, okay, so you're gonna simply say that if, okay, I'm just gonna say if user doesn't exist. Okay, if user doesn't exist, so what you're gonna do, you're gonna simply return some error like res dot status, and inside this you can just say we have an error and json, and inside this I'm gonna simply return an error with the message user not found. Okay, invalid username or password, like this. Okay, so now that's it. And invalid email or password, it's invalid email or password, right? So that's it. And now what we're gonna do is we are gonna simply say that if the user doesn't exist, then this would be the error, right? But if user exists, then we would continue. So now we're gonna check for the password. So the password which you are sending from front end is hj123, and the password which is saved in the database is the hashed format. So how do comparisons occur? So for that, you're gonna simply use the properties. Okay, so there is a property in bcrypt, that is bcrypt.compare, which is actually like you're gonna share your password, that is hj123, and this is the password saved in database, that means the hash format. So we are gonna just compare it using bcrypt. So we don't know what it actually uses, it uses some algorithm for comparison. You are just writing it this way. So if is match is true, that means the passwords are same, that means the hj123, sorry, that means the password which you have provided from the front end hj123 is equal to the hashed password which is saved in database, right? That's it. Now if everything is fine, you're gonna continue. Else, first of all, you're gonna say that if is match is false, okay, then you would simply return invalid credentials, right? So now let's see if everything is fine. So we would continue after this. First of all, we are checking the email, then we are checking the password is correct or not. If the password is also correct, now we are gonna generate an auth token. Okay, so I hope now everyone is familiar with auth token. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a gwt secret key and a refresh secret key. So this is for auth token and this is for refresh token. Okay, so now here what we are going to do is we are just going to say that a auth token would be generated with the user id. Okay, for that we are simply going to use gwt token. Okay, we are just simply going to say the user id would be mixed with the secret key, whatever is the secret key, and it would expire in 10 minutes. Okay, similarly you would be generating a refresh token also. Okay, so refresh token and auth token are actually very useful. So what it actually means is, like for example, auth token can't be forever. Okay, it's always less secure to have a forever auth token. So what we are going to do is we are just going to expire auth token in every 10 minutes, and we would simply say a refresh token would be available for 1 day. That means till 1 day, whenever auth token expires, refresh token would help us to rebuild an auth token. Okay, it's like that. But suppose if you if you just left the application for 1 day, what happens after 1 day? So after 1 day, auth token would expire as well as the refresh token would also expire. So you have to log in again. Okay, this time you have to log in again. Okay, so that's the benefit of auth and refresh. You can change the timings, but for this tutorial I've just made it 10 minutes and 1 day. You can also decrease it to 20 minutes and like that. And actually, let me just type it this way only. Okay, so I'll just say that suppose the token generated would be expiring in 20 minutes. That means refresh token would expire in 20 minutes, or suppose actually 40 minutes. Okay, so what would happen within 40 minutes if I try to use any other page of the application and which requires auth token, and if auth token is expired, we are going to regenerate the auth token using refresh token. Okay, if refresh token expires, that means after 40 minutes, obviously if you don't use the application for 40 minutes and the refresh token would expire, definitely you have to create a refresh token also. So for creating a refresh token, you have to log in again. Okay, so that's the benefit. Now you can use it for your own whatever purpose you want. Okay, hi Sagar, how are you? So guys, that's it. Now after that, you are going to save these tokens into the cookies of the front end. Okay, from the backend you can actually save these tokens to the cookies of front end. Okay, as a response, these tokens would be sent in the cookies. Okay, so we'll do that. For that, what you're going to do is just go to index.js. Here we are going to use cookie parser. Okay, so for saving things into cookies, we are going to use. Okay, so cookie parser package is very important, and I hope I have installed it. Yeah, I have already installed cookie parser, so I don't need to worry about this. So just install this, and we are going to use cookie parser to get cookies or save cookies to the cookies, okay, of front end. Okay, so from backend you can send cookies to the front end, and later on from front end you can get the cookies. Okay, cookies are actually saved forever, okay, until you delete them, right? So now after this, we are gonna simply use app.use cookie parser. Okay, so this is very important. So it would run as a middleware, and whenever you add or modify any cookie, so it would help us to save those things. Okay, so that's for the index.js. Now let's go back to auth.js, and in auth.js we are gonna simply say save the auth token and refresh token into the cookies. Okay, so we are gonna simply say res.cookie auth token, res.cookie refresh token. Okay, so that's how saving works. Now once you save the cookies, you can simply send a response that everything is fine, login successful. Okay, you can also send the token in the response also, but I won't suggest that because it's easily visible. But yeah, definitely from cookies also data can be extracted, but still I would send those as cookies, so it would be saved automatically. Okay, the user does not have to do anything, so automatically these cookies are saved, right? So now after this, we are gonna simply perform the login task. Okay, so right now guys, what I'm gonna do is, this is the login API, right? This is the login API, and right now what I'm going to do is, here I have some, I think I have saved some cookies. Okay, I think everything is fine, and I don't have any cookies here. You can see right now I don't have any cookie named as refresh token or auth token, right? So now what we're going to do is, we're going to simply say we're going to log in, and this is suppose some user. Okay, we created a user HJ123, right? Now we are trying to log in with that. Okay, suppose let me just provide a wrong password. So if I try to send, you can see invalid credential. Okay, so if you provide wrong email or password, you would get invalid credentials. Now if I provide the correct details, if I click on send, you can see log in successful. Okay, login successful. Now you're gonna check cookies. So here you can see that we have refresh token as well as the auth token. So you will see it like this, and this would be sent to the front end. Okay, this would be sent to the front end. You can assume this postman is actually the front end, that is React.js, and you're calling APIs from React.js, right? So that's how things happen. So the login part is also successful. If you have any doubts in the sign up or login part, please ask me in the live chat, right? So now let's continue with that, and you can see everything is fine. Login is also successful. Now one more important part of this page is send OTP. Okay, so how we are going to send OTPs? So just before registering, hitting this API from front end, I would hit an API of send OTP. Okay, I would hit an API of send OTP, and we can add different verification things later on, but right now I'm just going to create an API of send OTP. Okay, send OTP. What does this API do? This API would simply send an OTP to an email provided. Okay, so I'm just gonna get an email, that means xyz@gmail.com from viraj014. I'm gonna send it to that specific person who is trying to get an OTP. Okay, so I'm just gonna get the email of that person, create a random OTP, okay, of 6 digits. Okay, I think, yeah, this is 6 digits, right? So I'm just gonna create an OTP. Now for sending the OTP, we have an option inside node mailer. You just have to write it this way. So try, and first of all, yeah, we'll just pick the catch from here. I think this is fine, right? So catch. Okay, so inside the try block, we are gonna simply say that the mail options are like this. Inside the mail options, you are gonna simply define from, this is the sender. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, instead of this, you can provide some env, or what we are gonna do is, we are gonna simply go to env. Okay, inside this I'm gonna define company email equals, and let's say the company email is vir014 at the rate gmail.com. okay, so this is the email, suppose, and automatically it would take from here. So automatically Viraj014 would come here. Okay, then to the center. Okay, this is the sender. Okay, sorry, to the receiver. Okay, this is the receiver, xyz@gmail.com. Okay, now subject would be OTP for verification of blog 3x. Okay, this would be the subject, and similarly you would be sending the body. Okay, this is the body and you would be sending the OTP. Okay, that's it. That's how you would be sending. You would be drafting a mail like this. Now you just have to send it. Okay, so for sending we have a method inside this. We just have to call transporter dot send email. Okay, so this is an inbuilt method in NodeMiller. You just have to write it this way. It would send email. Okay, so we are just sending email. Okay, we are just sending email. After that we would get some response. So if there is an error, you would get the error, else you would simply return OTP sent successfully. Okay, so now let's try to run this send OTP API. Okay, so I'll go here, and I think I have already created this. So you can see I have an API, send OTP API. Okay, I've just called this. In the headers I've called it as content type application JSON, and here you can simply see we have provided some random user's email which is trying to register with us or forget password or anything. They want OTP in this email. Okay, so now let's try to click here and hopefully it works. So you can see OTP sent successfully, and this email would actually receive an OTP. This OTP would be received by this email also. Okay, so let me just show you. So guys, from here we'll go to coders hub. Okay, this is the email which actually receives an OTP. So you can see from Viraj014 we have received this OTP. Okay, so similarly you can choose any other admin. There can be any other admin, but yeah, you have to create app password for this, and you have to use any other email, whatever you like. Okay, so I'm assuming that this is my company's email and they are sending an email to anyone. Okay, so this is the user coders hub 2430 who is trying to register, and what's the OTP? This is the OTP. So now you can do OTP verification later on. Okay, so but that's how you can create an API to send OTP. Right, so guys, I hope you understood the send OTP part also. So these three were really important: send OTP, login, as well as register. Apart from this, you can create forgot password also, but I think if we get time, we'll create that later on, but I think these are fine. Right, so we have created the auth APIs. Now we're going to talk about the blog APIs, very important. So let's create a file named as blog.js. Okay, blog.js. Now in blog.js we're gonna use first of all we have to create a middleware or token middleware. We'll check that later on, but right now you can see we are going to use a blog schema also. We haven't created the schema also. So these are all the things which we are going to use in this page. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to create some APIs. So first API would be actually to create, read, update, delete blogs. Okay, using what? Using authentication. That means if the user is authenticated, they can update, delete, or read. Like read can be easily done, but they can easily update or delete if the user is authenticated. That means I created a blog. For that I don't need any kind of verification, right? Yeah, I can first of all check that if the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, then they can create an API. That's it. So if they are creating a blog, then that's fine. But for updating a blog, only the user who has created this blog can update the blog, and similarly only the user who has created the blog can delete the blog. Okay, so CRUD is for this. Okay, so we are going to use this operation. And one more thing is, in the read part also we are going to perform search operation itself. Okay, search operation will also be done. So I'll just write it separately, because read simply means you are reading any specific blog, and if you want to read multiple things, like if you just search for any blog title and you would get multiple titles, okay, multiple blogs. So for that we are going to create a search API also. Okay, so these are all the things we are going to perform in this page. Okay, so first of all let's create a check auth middleware. Okay, so here I'm going to create a file named as check auth token.js. So what it actually does is, right now when you are logging in, okay, so here automatically, okay, in the login part here automatically you would see in the cookies you have auth token and refresh token, right? But after a few minutes they would expire. If both of them are expired, so I would ask the user to log in again. I would restrict the access. So where are you restricting the access? So we are going to create a middleware which would run every time, which whenever you are running some important thing like creating a blog, reading a blog, updating a blog, or deleting a blog. always you're gonna first of all check if the user is authenticated or not. Okay, so this is the first thing. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So here I'm gonna create a similar function. Okay, so I'll just say that this function would be using JWT, and I'll just return the module exports check auth. Okay, this function would be returned. Okay, we're gonna write this, but now inside this, now we have auth token handler. Okay, so I'm just gonna create a variable auth token handler which would be getting anything, any function returned from this file. Okay, so it would automatically get this function. Okay, that's it. Now I'm gonna run this somewhere, but let's wait. Before that, you're also gonna create a model for blog. Okay, so let's create a model for blog. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a blog schema. Okay, so blog schema, sorry, blog schema dot js. Okay, so blog schema dot js. Now I'll just copy the user schema and I'll just paste it here, and I'm gonna choose, I'm gonna change control F2, so it would select everywhere you have written user schema. I'm gonna change it to blog schema. Okay, so blog schema, that's it. And one more thing is I'm gonna change these fields also, so I'm gonna remove this, and you don't need this. And here you have to change the user to blog. Okay, so that's how you would be changing those variables. Okay, so I hope now you got this. What we are going to do is we are going to create a blog schema. Okay, so how would our blog look? So our blog would be like a title, description and image, then we would be having multiple paragraphs. Okay, that's our schema. So first of all, let's create a schema for the blog. I'm just gonna say our blog would be having title, image and description. Okay, now what about paragraph? So inside paragraph also we have a method, right? We have some like rules. That means a paragraph can also have a title, description and image. So you're gonna simply, you can't write the paragraph field simply like type string required true, not like this. You have to define specific schema of paragraph also. That's how things work. Okay, so I'm gonna define schema of paragraph also. That's how I would be easily able to check that we have a title, description, different fields. So this is really helpful. So here I'm gonna just say we have paragraph schema. Okay, paragraph schema. Now this paragraph schema would be exactly similar to this. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy and paste it here, and I'll just close it, and I have to close it. Okay, and the paragraph would be actually having a title, description and image. Okay, paragraph would be having these fields. Okay, fine. So paragraph would be having these fields. Okay, and every paragraph would be can be repeated anytime. That means these paragraphs array, actually its paragraphs array can have multiple paragraphs. Okay, so what I'm gonna say that it would be having an array. Okay, so its type would be an array, but what schema it would follow? So it would be following paragraph schema. That means each element of this array, multiple paragraphs, would be following this paragraph schema. Okay, right? And default, it's empty. That means suppose if nobody wants to provide any paragraph for their blog, then it would be empty, right? It would be empty. But if you provide one paragraph, then this array would be containing one paragraph, two paragraphs, three paragraphs, any number of paragraphs. Okay, so it works like that. That's how you would be defining the paragraph schema. Okay, so this is very important and you're going to use it everywhere you like. Okay, so you can create separate schemas and you can connect it like this, right? So now one more thing, who is the owner? So for deciding the owner, you are gonna simply say owner. It would be containing the ID of the owner. That means I created this blog, I created this blog, that means my ID must be here. Okay, so, so I'll just say type of this is actually mongoose dot schema dot types dot object ID. Okay, so this would actually mean that I'm trying to save it as a type of object ID. That means the ID which is saved in the database of MongoDB. Okay, you can see the format of the IDs. I want the exactly same ID. That's the type of MongoDB it provides automatically. Okay, so now I'm gonna simply say that it's required. Okay, obviously it's required. If you don't know the owner, then you can't save the blog. Definitely it's required, and it's taking from reference from where you have to define the reference. It's important. So you're going to say reference is taken from user schema. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to simply say whenever you are creating a block, title, description, image, then multiple paragraphs. It can also be empty, but If there are multiple paragraphs, there is a schema for each paragraph. Okay, at least one paragraph, if there is at least one paragraph, any paragraph would be following this schema. Okay, if you have 100 paragraphs, if you have 100 elements inside this array, all of them would be following this schema, right? So that's how you would be following this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, everything is fine. Now we would simply use this in our block.js. Okay, so in block.js we're going to use it. Okay, so we are using it, right? So everything is fine. Now we're gonna write block.js. So first of all, we are gonna create this check auth middleware. We're gonna complete this. Inside this, I'm simply trying to say that first of all, first step is get auth and refresh token from cookie. Okay, this is the first step. Then the second step which I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna simply check if they exist. I'm gonna assume that if they exist, then go to step 2. Okay, if they, suppose if they don't exist, return error. Okay, that means there must be an auth and refresh token. If you don't have auth and refresh token, then I would ask the user to log in again, right? But if they have the auth and refresh token, then we are going to step 2. Now in step 2, first of all, I'm going to check expiry of auth token. Okay, suppose the expiry is 10 minutes. That means you logged in 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, and the expiry of auth token is 10 minutes. That means still you have 5 minutes. Okay, there, like suppose for example, I'll give you a better example. Suppose auth token is valid for 1 day. Okay, valid for 1 day, and what you have done is, you just logged in 1 hour ago. So whenever you're logging in, auth token is generated. So you're gonna check the expiry. If auth token is not expired, if auth token is not expired, then all is well. Exit function. Okay, that means you are authenticated and your token is not expired. But if auth token is expired, then you would go to step 3. So what you're going to do is, you're going to check refresh token, expiry of refresh token. Okay, so if refresh token is expired, then ask for re-login. Okay, but if refresh token is not expired, but auth token was expired, right? Auth token is expired, then regenerate both tokens. Okay, both or one token. You can generate just auth token, or you can regenerate both tokens. Okay, this is the method. So if auth token is expired, you're going to use refresh token to regenerate auth token as well as refresh token. Okay, so we're going to do this. These are the steps. So if you don't get confused, I'm just going to mentioning this. I've just mentioned this. Okay, so now first of all, let's get those from the cookies. So I'll just get those from the cookies. Okay, these are saved in the cookies, you know it. Now I'm going to simply say that if okay, first of all, let me just give a console so that we know that this middleware is called. So let's check auth token middleware called. I'm just going to give it this console. And now I'm gonna say that if we don't have auth token or we don't have refresh token, so I'm gonna simply say authentication field, no auth token or refresh token provided. Okay, if we don't have any token, right? You must have both of them. Okay, you must have both of them. They are important. If you don't have at least one of them, still you would be getting this. Okay, still you would getting this. Okay, now suppose we have both of them. We have checked. So if we have both of them, we are simply first of all checking auth token. Okay, so there are two cases right inside this: expired, okay, and the second case is not expired. So if it's not expired, okay, if it's not expired, then if it's not expired, okay, if it's not expired, so I'm just gonna enter some lines. So if it's not expired, I'm gonna simply pass an else condition here. I'm gonna create an if condition also. So in else condition, I would just say that req.user id would be decoded. Okay, decoded would be actually containing an object of all the values inside the token. Okay, automatically you would get this decoded value. Okay, you don't have to worry about this. So decoded dot user id. So what actually happens is when you are creating a token, whenever you are creating a token, okay, you can see we were actually storing values like this. Okay, this is an object, and object has some values, so you can see it has value user id. So we are simply decoding it and we are forwarding this. So req.user id, we are just forwarding it to whatever api we are going to call this middleware later on. But right now you can just assume that req.user id now would have the value of the user id. So from the token you actually got the user id and sent to further api. Okay, so this is important. Now you have the user id, you're gonna simply say next. That means whatever is the api called later on, I'm gonna send it. For example, you wanna create a blog. First of all, you would check user authenticated or not. If authenticated, if that means if auth token is there, that means this is the case. So why waste time? Just get the user id and forward it so that you can save it as an owner whenever you create it, whenever you create a blog. Okay, we'll do that. But right now you can see that if everything is fine, auth token is not expired, this is the case. But if auth token is expired, so we have the if case. So if auth token is expired, definitely it would come inside the error part. Okay, so it would be inside the error part. Okay, so now inside this we'll just say check the refresh token. Okay, we're gonna check the refresh token. So now this is the case. Now here we have two options: refresh token is expired, and second option is not expired. Okay, we have two options, but in both of these, and access token is expired. Okay, this is the case, and access token is expired. Okay, so if refresh token is not expired, so you can generate new tokens. But if refresh token is expired as well as access token is expired, that means you can't access, you have to log in again, right? Now I'm going to simply say that if refresh token as well as access token is expired, I would simply ask the user to log in again. I'm simply going to ask the user to log in again. Okay, so if both of them expired, both of them are invalid, that means they are expired. So I'm going to simply say if we have an error, that is they are expired. Refresh token is as well expired, as well as auth token was also expired. So if both of them were expired, we are simply going to say authentication failed, please try to log in again. But if refresh token is not expired, then this is very important. You're going to simply say that generate new token from the user id. Okay, so from what? From the user id. Refresh token decoded dot user id, you would be getting the user id. You would be regenerating a new token using jwt sign, and you're gonna provide the secret key, and the expiry is suppose 10 minutes. And similarly for new refresh token, you're gonna set the expiry to something else like 10 days. Okay, like that. Okay, so that's how you're gonna do things. Now inside this, I think instead of 10 days we use something else. Okay, so we used actually 40 minutes. Okay, so this is it. And go back to check auth token. Here I'm gonna say 40 minutes. Okay, so that's it. We generated new tokens, and again we are gonna save new tokens to the cookies. Okay, so we're gonna save the tokens to the cookies again. Okay, again save to cookies, and now you're gonna send the user id to the next api, and then everything is fine. But if you don't have both the tokens, you're gonna simply send this error, right? So guys, I hope you understood this part. Now let's call this token api. Okay, let's call this api. So right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to simply go to blog.js. Here you can see we already have this. So whenever you want to check these kind of things, like if you want to check error is always checked at the last, but authentication will always be checked in the first. So we are going to call this middleware at the top. In auth part, what we did, we called the middleware at the last. Okay, so that's the difference, don't get confused, right? So let's go back to blog.js, and we are gonna simply say in blog.js, we are gonna simply say just call just call my API. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this directly in my APIs. Okay, just wait. So first of all, I'm going to check that is working or not. It's working or not. So first of all, we created block.js, but we have to input it in index.js also. Okay, so here instead of auth routes, along with this, we are also having now blog routes. Okay, so blog routes equals require blog. Okay, so we have imported the blog routes. Now we are gonna simply use it like this. Okay, so we'll just say that app dot use blog routes. Okay, so we are simply using the blog routes, and the problem here is, I think in blog.js you have to export the routes also. Okay, so you have to do this module.exports router. Okay, you have to export it. Now you would see everything is fine. Okay, so now let's try to run the test. Okay, so the test for blog, I have already written it. So if I click on send, you can see I have an error, cannot read properties of undefined. Okay, I have some issues here. What's the problem here? Let's see. Okay, cannot read properties of undefined auth token. Okay, the problem is here, we don't have auth token. Okay, I think this is expired or something. Let me just check. Guys, just a minute, huh? This is actually called inside the check auth. Okay, inside the check auth we have the cookies, right? And what we are simply checking here is this function is called inside what. Okay, so you're gonna do one thing. First of all, let me just comment this check auth out. Okay, I'm just gonna comment this out, and I'll just save this first of all. Okay, in test I have actually used the auth token handler. Okay, let me just check if we have cookies here or not. So guys, right now I'll just remove all the tokens from here. You can see right now I don't have any tokens from here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, first of all, let's try to log in. Okay, we have to first of all restart. Okay, first of all we have to remove this from here. Okay, so we're just gonna test this API first of all, and here if I try to re-log in, so you can see login is successful. So now if I go to this API, now in the cookies part, you would see we have some refresh token, and we also had this auth token. Okay, so we have auth token as well as we have the refresh token. So I think this is fine. So now what we're going to do is, we can see cannot read properties. Okay, if I click on this, can see test API works for blocks. Right now it's working. Okay, so now we are going to simply say just call the auth token handler. Okay, so just call the auth token handler. So it's located at this location, check auth token. Inside check auth token, we are simply getting these values. Okay, so what's the values? Let me just check the value name. So it's auth token as well as the refresh token. So we're getting those values. Now we are going to simply say that if they are not available, we are sending this error. Okay, so now let's try to run this again. If I click this, I am getting error undefined auth token. Okay, I think the problem here is, I'll go to block.js, and actually I'll go to index.js, and here we are using cookie parser at the end. Instead of this, you have to use it at the top. That's it. Okay, that's what the issue was. Okay, right? So now if I try to click on send, you can see test API works for blocks. That means it's verified. Okay, that means now you would see check auth middleware call and everything is fine. That's why we are now able to run after this we are now able to run the next part. Okay, next part is this. Suppose now if I try to print also, now suppose if I try to print, for example, I write just um, user ID. Okay, I'll just print the user ID. So I'll just say req dot user ID. Okay, where am I getting this user ID from? So from auth token handler, I decided the user ID and I forwarded it. So after forwarding, you would get user ID here. Okay, so now let's try to work on it. So if I click on send, you can see now I get the user ID also. Okay guys, so now I hope you understood. So I have logged in from which user? You can see HJ123. Now let's see the ID of this user in our database. Okay, so we'll go to database, and here you can see this user has this ID 65031. Okay, and you can see that's what we get here. Okay, so now you know why we are using auth token verifier handler. Okay, so this is very important middleware. It gives us user ID if the user is verified, and it would give us error if the tokens are expired, right? So now everything is fine. We are gonna write the blog APIs now. Okay, so the first thing for the blog API is you're gonna call auth token handler. You can call middleware this way also. This is also a good method. You can call it this way also, but if you want to call error handler, that means it's called for every API, you would always be calling it at the end. Okay, so this will always be called. So now in this specific part in blog.js, you want to first of all check authentication, then run other things. That's why we have used it this way, right? So now let's continue, and here similarly we are gonna say we are gonna create a new block. So for that I'm just gonna create a post request, which would be slash. Okay, no other name. You can give other name also, like create blog, something like this. I'm just leaving it empty. Okay, and I'm first of all checking the user. Okay, if it's fine, then I'll get the user ID like this. Okay, so if everything is fine, we are inside this. We are gonna simply first of all say that we are inside the try, and if there is any error, you would simply send it to the catch block. Okay, simply send it to the catch block. Now inside the try block, we'll first of all get the title, description, image and paragraph from front end, right? This data would be sent from the front end for any blog. Okay, and now we're going to create that data from these. Okay, so we're just going to create a new blog object from these data. Okay, now we are just going to save this to our database. Okay, we're just going to save this blog to our database, and you can see owner is what? User ID. Okay, user ID. So once everything is fine, we are just gonna say that also push it to users blog. That means the user who has created the blog, in that user we have a specific. First of all, what would happen whenever you create a blog? Automatically your blog would be saved here like this. Okay, we'll do that. This is the first thing which would happen. Your blog is supposed saved. Second thing which must happen is, you can see I had a user Viraj014. Inside this I had blogs array. So inside this you would get all the blogs who are created by this user. Okay, who are created by this user. I think I must not do it this way. I must only mention the ID, but you know the method, right? So similarly, I just going to mention the IDs of all the blocks created by this user. Okay, any user. Okay, whoever created the block, I'm just gonna add those blocks to the ID of that user. Okay, so first of all I'm gonna find the user with that ID. Okay, find the user with that ID. Okay, I got the user object. If the user does not exist, obviously it exists, but since just writing it, okay, for verification. So if the user does not exist, user not found. But if the owner exists, okay, the ID of the owner exists and owner is there, so I'm just simply gonna say just push the block. Okay, just push the block. Right, I'm just pushing the block, but instead of that you can actually push the ID also. I think for the ID you're just gonna write underscore ID. Okay, so you're just gonna push the ID, right? I'm just pushing the ID. Now it's saved. The user would have that specific blog ID in the blogs array of that user. Okay, now we are just saving the user. After saving the user, we are just going to get this message: blog post created successfully. Okay, so now let's try to run this inside our page. So right now I'll just do one thing. I'll just delete this also. So I'll just click on edit, and I'll just delete this blocks array from here and update. Okay, so that right now I haven't got any blocks saved, and I'll just delete this blocks also. Okay, drop. Okay, so right now you would see something like this. We only have users and they are created and they don't have any blocks. You can see this is blocks array, but this does not have any any blocks. Now we are going to create a block. So for that you can see I'm logged in with which user? HJ123. Okay, so now I have the auth token, everything is fine. So now you can see we have created a block. So for that we have to first of all call a post request. You can see this is the post request for creating a block, right? And the headers part I've simply said application JSON. Now in the body I've simply said that what would be the title, description, image would be some sample image, and then you can see we have paragraphs. Okay, so inside the paragraphs we again have the same format like this. Okay, right now you might see where are the images, how we are going to upload the image. It's very simple. We'll do that later on in the next video maybe, because we don't have time for creating an image API, but you know, okay. But yeah, we are gonna create an image API for uploading image, and then we are gonna add images later on. Right now you can assume your image is also there. You're just passing the links and saving it to the database. That's how you save images to the database. You just pass the link, okay, not the actual image. Okay, you'll be saving the image somewhere else, and you'll get the link out of it, and you'll be saving that image link to your database like this. Okay, so now let's try to create a blog, and I'm just naming it as my blog XYZ. Okay, or let me just say my blog 1. Okay, better. Let's hit send. So you can see blog validation failed. Okay, description is required. Actually, instead of description text, I have provided DESC. Okay, so let's fix that. Okay, so now everything is fine. If I click on send, and you would see blog created successfully. So once you create the blog, you can see the blog would be created. You know the owner, and you also have that ID of this blog. This ID would also be saved to the user schema. So now if I just try to refresh, let's refresh, you would actually see the blog ID saved to this specific user who created this blog. Okay, so this is very important. Now you save the blog ID as well as you saved the blog also. Okay, so for that blog's specific folder would be created like this. So you can see specific folder is created and your blog is saved, right? Both of these things are done, and you can see everything is fine. Your paragraphs are also saved as an array. So this is a very proper thing. So that's how you're gonna save a blog. Now add blog API is done. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the live chat. Now after this, we have one more API to get a blog. So for getting a blog, I'm simply asking for the ID. Anyone can get the blog, okay? Anyone can read the blog, right? So it's not any authentication specific. So that's why I'm not passing the auth middleware, right? Anyone can read the blog. Even if they are not logged in, they can read the blog at least. So I'm gonna simply say that get the blog with that ID. Get the blog with that ID. So instead of params, it actually param simply means in the URL itself you are providing the ID. Okay, in the URL itself you are providing the ID of the blog. That's what params is. Okay, so I'm just getting the ID from the URL and finding that blog. If the blog is not available, blog post not found, but if the blog is available, I'm just returning the blog. Okay, and you can see if there is error, I would get the error. For example, right now you can see I created the blog. Okay, so I'll just do one thing. I'll just copy this, and now instead of this I'm just gonna call a get request. You don't need to provide the headers or body anything in this case, but yeah, leave it as it is. So right now if I click on this, you would see your blog. Okay, your blog is there. Suppose I change the ID to something like this. If I click on send, you can see, first of all, object ID is actually invalid, but let me just give some other ID. So if I change this 4 to 6, okay, so now you can see blog post not found. Anyways, you are getting an error. Okay, if you're providing the wrong ID, you are getting an error, but if you're providing the right ID of your blog, you would get that blog, right? So I hope you got how you can get a specific blog. Okay, for this you don't need verification of the user. Okay, since we are just reading, we are not modifying anything. Now let's talk about the modification part, which is very important. Okay, so for the modification part, you're first of all going to call the put method. Put method is for the modification, right? Now inside the put method, you're checking the user ID. First of all, the user has, we are going to extract the user ID. If user is authenticated, we are just going to extract the user ID. Now we have the user ID, and we have the owner field saved into our database of blog. We are going to compare both of these. If both of these match, that means this is our blog. I can update that. Okay, that's what we are going to do. So here I'll just say that again, just call the try catch blog. Okay, and it would be really similar to the create API, just that we're going to make one more comparison, that is the owner as well as the user ID. So first of all, you're going to take updates from the front end. Okay, I'm just going to take updates from the front end. What's the issue? Okay, guys, we are going to create a function named as check blog ownership. I'll be doing that here, right? So let's create a function also. This function would actually help us to check blog ownership. What would it do? It would get the owner ID as well as the blog ID, and it would check ownership. Okay, so here we are simply treating it as a middleware. Okay, it's checking the ownership. Okay, so here I'm simply gonna say that we have again got a try catch block. try catch block, error. Inside this, display the error. Inside try, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna get the ID. Okay, I'm just gonna get the block with that ID, whatever block you are trying to update. First of all, I'm just getting the block, whatever block you are trying to update. I haven't updated it, I've just gotten the old version. Okay, that means the existing thing. Later on you are updating, but first of all you are getting the block. From this you are first of all saying that if block doesn't exist, block post not found. Then you are simply saying that the owner field of the block, if block is found, the owner field of block first of all would be converted to string, is not equal to req.user.id. How do you get req.user.id? It's very simple. First of all, you are calling auth token handler. It simply gives you req.user.id and you are forwarding it, right? So that's how you got req.user.id. So req.user.id is here. req.user.id is here. If they don't match, you can simply say permission denied, you don't own this block, right? But if everything is fine, you're just gonna return the block later on. Okay, that means you're gonna return the block to the next API. Now what would happen? Now we can simply print req.block here. We would easily get the block. Okay, easily get the existing block. Okay, so that's very easy. Now here what you're gonna do is you're gonna simply call update method in MongoDB. I just call this find by ID and update. Inside this you just have to provide the ID. Okay, and then you're just going to update. Okay, this is the update parameters, these are the updates parameter, and this is the ID of the block which you want to update, right? So that's it. And ID is actually extracted from what? ID is actually extracted from here. Okay, so we're just gonna update it, and after this we're just gonna say if updated, then we're gonna just say that if it's updated, then we're just gonna save it. Okay, we're just gonna save it. Okay, for this you don't need to call update block dot save anything like that. Automatically things would be saved. Okay, you're just waiting for it. If it's not available, blog post not found. If saved, then blog post saved successfully, right? That's it. Now everything is fine. Now what we're gonna do is we are simply gonna call the update method. Okay, so in the update method what you're gonna do is this is the put method. This is the put method. Again, in the headers you would be needing the application JSON. In the body, suppose I want to update any specific block. Okay, so the block ID was this. I wanted to update this block. Suppose I would change the block title to my block 1 2 3 4 5, and you can change different content also. Like for example, here you can just type few more content. You can change the image link also. Okay, but I'm just gonna change the title and description, and rest everything would be same as it is. Okay, so now if I click on, now suppose if I click on send, you would see authentication failed. Actually time was up 10 minutes 20 minutes, so let me just first of all try to re-log in. Okay, so I'm just re-logged in, and now I would go to add block. Sorry, I would go to add a block, but inside this we were actually now passing the update method. You can see this is the update method. Okay, put request with the block ID, this is updating. Okay, so I'm gonna update the block. So now if I try to click on send, you can see block updated successfully. Previously whatever it was, now you can see the block is updated to this. Okay, so I hope you understood this. Now similarly you can update any other blog also, but it must be your own blog. Okay, first of all it's verifying the user token, then you are able to update the blog, right? So now we are able to update the blog, which is very easy. Similarly you must be able to delete the blog. Okay, so for deleting the blog we have one method, that is the delete method. Okay, so first of all again you're going to check that it exists for you or not. That means you are the owner or not. Okay, if you are the owner, then we are continuing. Okay, if you are the owner, you're going to simply call the try catch method. Okay, you're simply going to call the try catch method, and try catch method. Inside this try, I'm simply gonna call that block which I want to delete by simply typing find by ID and remove. Okay, I'm simply going to remove it once everything is verified. Okay, you're not gonna reach here unless everything is passed. Okay, so these middlewares are actually restrictions. If they are passed, then only you are able to delete. So you don't need to worry about this, how I am easily able to delete it by an ID. You are not deleting by an ID, you are first of all verifying yourself, then you are able to delete it. Okay, that's it. So now after this, if it's not there, blog post not found. But if it was there and everything was fine, but first of all one more thing, if it's deleted, then everything is fine. But if it's not deleted, it was not available, then you would get some error. If you get some error, then you would return that error. But if everything is fine, you are also gonna delete that blog id from users object also. Okay, in user we have blog array. Okay, from users also I want to delete that. So first of all, I would find the user, find the owner. Okay, find the owner, and I'm gonna delete that blog id. I'm gonna delete that blog ID. I'm gonna delete that blog ID from the blogs array of the user. Okay, so in both cases, first of all, I deleted from the blogs collection as well as blogs array. Okay, blogs collection was the blogs collection, and blogs array was actually inside the user. Okay, so let's save the user also. And now I would simply say blog deleted successfully. Okay, deleted blog, and whatever is the deleted blog would be actually the blog which you have deleted. Okay, you would still have the value as printed statement, but it would be deleted from your database. Okay, you would be seeing the blog for the last time in your printed statement, right? And now everything is fine. Now let's try to delete the blog. Okay, so for deleting it's very easy. I would just simply call the delete method, and right now you can see this is the blog which I want to delete. So if I click on send, and you can see blog post deleted successfully, it's deleted. Now let's try to see that in the database. If I click on refresh, so inside the blogs you can see the only blog which I created was deleted, and also in the users you would see that it's okay, it's actually not removed from here. Okay, it's actually not removed from here. Maybe I passed some wrong method. Okay, so I have to check this one. I have to check this one. I'll fix that later on. Okay, I'll fix that later on, but yeah, I have to check this one. Okay, and most probably there is some confusion with the id, because previously I was passing the complete object, and I'm just passing the whole, I'm just passing the id. Okay, I have to check this one, but yeah, it would be done also. So okay, so I'll just write here delete blog id not working. Okay, I'll fix that later on, but yeah, you know that blog is actually deleted, right? So now what we're gonna do is, after deleting the blog, you're gonna search a blog, right? You're gonna search a blog. For example, if you type the correct name, you would get the correct exact blog. But if you write some search parameters, like for example, there are 10 blogs which have text title starting from blog, or have blog text anywhere. So you would get all the blogs which have blog text anywhere. Let me just tell you. So let's write the search one here. So I'll just write search. Okay, so if you want to get set of blogs like 10-20 blogs, during you do search result, because of search result. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So for that, let's create an API. So it would be same get API. Okay, same get API, but this time I'm not providing any id. I want all the blocks. Okay, I want all the blocks. I don't want any specific block. I want all the blocks. That means 10 at a time, because if you have thousands of blocks, you can't get all the blocks. You would be getting 10 blocks at a time in forms of pages. Yeah, right, you would be getting pages option there. Okay, so that's how you save the data. So we are going to do that. The page logic would be applied here. So first of all, what we're going to say is try catch. This is try catch. Now inside this, first of all, I would get the search parameters. Okay, suppose someone searched my blog in the search bar, so you would get that from the body. First of all, it can be empty also, it can be some value also. Okay, for example, user doesn't search anything. That means in homepage you just want to show 10 blogs, so you won't be searching anything. Okay, you would be just showing 10 random blogs. But if user search something in the search bar, so you would be showing the blogs accordingly. So it's like search value. Okay, I've defined the search value. Now you also want to define the page size. Okay, so page size would be starting from 1, and it would be anything later on, but right now I've just defined page size would be anything the user has provided. But if it's not there, I would be at least taking 1. Okay, page size is suppose 1, page number is 1, starting from 1. If the user has provided, suppose from front end user is provided 10, so automatically the page which I want for the blocks, that means page number 10, I want to the data of page number 10, so I would be calling page number 10. For example, let's visit Google, right? Okay, so I'll just simply type Google image, something like this. Okay, so you can see that we have pages here. Okay, so if I type 10, initially you would get 1. If you don't provide any page, you would get 1. But if I type 10, you can see you are getting search result for the 10th page, right? You don't get search result for the previous page or next page. You are getting search result for the 10th page. So that's what we are going to do here. Okay, that's what we are going to do here. So here I'm going to say that you have defined per page, you have to define per page results also. You can see in Google also, you can see in per page you have some specific amounts of result. Okay, so now I'm assuming that per page you want to show 10 blocks. Okay, that means first page would be having 10 blocks, next page would be having 10 to 20 blocks, that means the next 10 blocks, similarly the next 10 blocks, next 10 blocks. That's how results are shown, right? So now you have shown it this way, and we have a regular expression. This regular expression would be acting as a search query. Okay, you just have to write it this way. Regular expression are actually for identifying patterns. For example, like if I just write YOUT, if you write YOUT, it automatically identifies it as YouTube. So this is what, this is actually a regular expression. It's identified as a regular expression. So this is very important to know. Now you have everything. So you have just defined regular expression. That means whatever you type, for example, your blog title is my blog 123, and if you just write log, so your title contains log, right? So you would get that title as a result, because that log search query which you have provided would be identified as a regular expression. That means as a pattern. Okay, wherever is that pattern would be given as a search result. Okay, so this is very important, right? So now after this we are gonna simply say total blocks. First of all, we're gonna get total blocks. For example, we have 1000 blocks. Suppose, let's say we have 100 blocks. 100 blocks. How many pages would be there? We would have 10 pages, right? Because 10 blocks each page, so 100 blocks. Suppose we have 90 blocks. How many pages would be there? We have 9 pages. Suppose we have 95 blocks. Now how many pages we would have? So again we would have 9 pages only. Okay, so 9 pages are for 91 to 99. It's like that. Okay, so that's how you would be doing it. And actually it would be like the first page would be having 1 to 10, second page would be having 11 to 20, third page would be having 21 to, it's like that. So you'll see that later on. Okay, that's some logic. We'll see that later on, but yeah, that's the formula which we are gonna apply. That simply means total blocks are suppose 95 and per page is 10. So what do we get? We get 9.5. Okay, so math seal is a very great function. You can simply print that later on. Okay, you can print that. So what I'm actually gonna say is, suppose you have 5 blocks. 5 blocks would be would be shown in which page? First page. Suppose you have 11 blocks. 5 blocks, for example, would be shown as one page. Okay, suppose you have 11 blocks, then this would be shown in 2 pages. Okay, that means 10 plus 1. Okay, suppose you have 25 blocks, so you would be showing data in 3 pages. Okay, 10 plus 10 plus 5. That's how things would work. That's how we are just getting the total page. We are just getting the total pages. Okay, for example, you have 25 blocks saved in your database, so we're just going to say 25 would be divided by 10 and you would get 3. Okay, you would get 3. Okay, you would get 3 because seal simply gives upper one. Okay, upper number, so you would get 3, right? So now let's see how it works. So we got the total pages, and we are just gonna say if page is less than 1, that means you want the 0 page, which is not existing. Obviously we don't have 0 page, we have at least 1 page. And if the total pages are suppose 9 and I'm requesting for the 20th page, this is very big. Okay, very big difference. You don't have those number of pages, so you would be simply giving this error, invalid page not found, right? So this is the error. Now after this, if everything is fine, what you're gonna what you're gonna say is, for example, user gave page 1 as input. User gave page 1 as input. Okay, value 1 as input. Which page you are gonna show? You are gonna show this page. Okay, that means blog of this page. Now the user has given page 2 as input, and suppose you have 10 pages. So which page data you would see? So you would see data from 11 to 20, blocks from 11 to 20. Suppose the user gave input page as 5. So you would be getting data accordingly. Okay, suppose for 3 you would be getting 21 to 30. just like that. Okay, so that's what I mean. So we have to define the skip method. Okay, so skip method is very important here. So skip method, you have to just write that whatever is the page, you have to skip those pages. Okay, so skip is for that. So for example, user provided page number, user provided which page, user provided page number 3. So I'm just making it 2 into 10, 20. I'm going to skip 20 blocks to get blocks of page number 3. That's how you're gonna get things, right? So this is skip. And now after this, you're just gonna write the query for mongoose of mongodb. It's gonna find the search query with that title. Okay, I want to get all the blocks with that title, the search query, the regular expression. Okay, and you're gonna sort them according to the latest blocks. That means you would get things in latest order. Okay, latest first and the oldest last. Okay, then you're gonna skip the first 20. If I want page number 3, I would skip first 20. Then till when I want to get the data, the next 10, the next 10. Okay, so I want to skip first 20 and I want to get data of next 10. Okay, that means 21 to 30. This is the logic for pages, right? So now you have this and you just return the blocks. That's it, that's it. That's how you're gonna return things. Okay, for now I'm just gonna say let me just decrease the page size, right? So for example, right now I'm just gonna decrease the page size to suppose 2 blocks per page, for example, because we can't create that many blocks for each page. So for example, 2 blocks per page. Now we're gonna test this API. So let's test this, right? So for that, let's go here, and I have created a sample API. You can see this is the API, this is the get method, and inside this I have just called for page number 1 and I'm searching for text. Suppose what was the block. Here you can see inside the blocks, actually I've deleted, I think I've deleted all the blocks. So let's create a block. Okay, let's create a block. So I'm just gonna create a block with the get method. Okay, and actually sorry, with the post method, and you're gonna create a block and you're just gonna say my block page 1. Okay, or my block, suppose I'm just gonna write something like 1, my block 1. Okay, my block 1, and if I click on send, so you can see, okay, first of all I have to log in again, then add block. So you can see everything is fine. Now if I type block 2, I'm going to create another block. If I write block 3, I'm going to create another block. If I write block 4, I'm going to create another block. And if I write block 5, I'm going to create. So how many blocks do I have now? I have 5 blocks. How many pages do I have? I have 3 pages. 2 blocks per page. I have just defined it for now. 2 blocks per page. Okay, 2 blocks, 2 blocks, and 1 block. Okay, so 3 pages. Now let's test this. So I would go here, and here you just have to type the text. Okay, for example, in page number 1, okay, like suppose I have many results. Okay, I have many results. Okay, I have thousands of results. Suppose I have thousands of results, I only want to get page number 1. That means 10 results or 2 results, for example. So for that you get it this way. But right now let me just leave it empty. I'm not searching for anything. I have 3 pages. I want the first page. Okay, so if I click on send, you would see, actually it would be like latest order. So the latest block would be my block 5, and after that you will get my block 4. Okay, so the latest were these 2 blocks. And suppose if I write page number 2, I would get my block 3 and my block 2. Okay, so you would see that my block 3 and my block 2. If I write page number 3, you would get my block 1. Okay, that's the only block remaining. Okay, suppose if you write a bigger page number, like if you write 4, so you would see invalid page number, right? That's the error. Suppose if I search for something, so in page number 1, I'm just gonna say my block. Okay, let's write it this way, my block. Okay, or we'll create some other blocks. So you can see, if you type anything, if you type, suppose if you just type log, if you just type log, so you would get all the titles who have log pattern in their name. Okay, in the latest order. So obviously you would get 2 data because the pattern is set to 2. Okay, so I hope you understood the page logic and the search logic, and you can implement on your own to any of the thing you want. Okay, so that's how you're going to implement all the things. And now I think I have implemented all the APIs. I think there is some issue in the delete part. We'll fix that in the next video, and rest everything is fine. And one more thing is remaining here is the image upload part. We'll also cover that. That's a very small API. Okay, so guys, I hope you understood this video. I'm going to upload this source code to GitHub. Let's do that. So I'll just close this and just in the terminal. git add dot git commit dash m, and this is what, day 4 git push. Okay, so I've pushed the source code and now it's available on GitHub. Okay, so you can check out the source code definitely, and I'll just share you the repository. So guys, you just have to visit my GitHub profile. You just have to type github.com/VIRAJJ014. Okay, so you can follow me here. In the repositories, you would find the backend code. Okay, this is the backend code, and you can check out this backend code. If you don't find this, you can search that here. Okay, you can also mark it as a star so that you can use it later on in the stars. Okay, you can get that in the stars section. Okay, so before ending this session, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And in the description, we have a link for a specific MERN stack course provided by Geeks for Geeks. That's a paid course. If you want to purchase that course, definitely you can. These are both online as well as offline courses. Let me just take you to that page, then we can end the session. Okay guys, so once you click that link, it will take you to this page and you can check out this one. Okay, so that's it. And if you have any queries regarding this session, you can ask me in the like anytime, or you can message me on Instagram also. You can comment below, or you can message me on Instagram also. Let me just show you my profile. So this is my profile. You can message me here. I would be happy to answer all of your doubts. Okay, so that's it for today. I will see you in the next one with the front end part. We'll be covering the front end part completely in the next video along with the remaining two APIs. So bye bye.